Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Dads, not always on wrestling, here on the Jeff Meacham Network. I am, of course, the West Coast Professor Jeff Meacham. Joining me to my left, as he do, the Renegade JJ Williams. And yes, we're actually wearing our work clothes. They finally came in the mail. Christmas came early at the Jeff Meacham Network. That's right. It is December.
Available at teespring.com/stores/Jeff Meacham Network.
No more hype
today, just in time for Christmas.
That's right. If you buy it now, it'll get there for Christmas. If you buy two, they'll both get there.
That's
maybe.
right.
Well, one may go through Europe first.
Choices.
That's right. That's right. One of them may go through Europe first to get to Nevada, but that's okay. That's right.
Now that we've got the shameless plug-in.
That's right. Shameless plugs. Buy the shirt. Okay. So
right here on Dad's on Wrestling.
Cheap pop. Only appropriate to do a Mick Foley promo during December, right? Only appropriate to do that then.
And as you can tell, I am in the festive holiday spirit with my Santa hat.
That's right. I am not yet, but Christmas movies are coming, and I will have my hat on for that, so don't worry about that. And because I'm in such just a non-Grinchy spirit this December, surprisingly enough, I decided we're going to do a bonus episode of the Dads and Wrestling, and it's going to be Christmas themed because I guess I'm going to put up the 24th or the 23rd. I haven't decided where I'm going to put it up because I kind of want to keep both days, the 24th and 25th, available for y'all to be, with your families and have family time, God forbid. So one of those 2 days, either 23rd or 24th, our top 10 Christmas songs. And if you think our wrestling themes show was controversial, Christmas songs could be more interesting. Keep that in mind also. But we are here because it is December in the world of wrestling. That means one thing if you're an old school fan like me and a quasi old school fan like Mr. Williams, Starrcade. Yeah. I know you're going to say, well, wait a minute, Jeff, Starrcade was on Thanksgiving. Yeah, Vince done screwed that up. So no, not anymore.
Definitely.
Yeah. Vince decided to, run the Survivor Series, and we covered Survivor Series last month very, very, very boisterously. We enjoyed that. We enjoyed covering Starrcade. We enjoyed covering the Disney movies 2 weeks ago, and again, I still feel bad because I missed Mickey's birthday on the day of. I had to do it the next day. I felt so bad, but it is what it is, as we say on this show and on the network in general. So what we're doing today on the Dads Always on Wrestling is a wrestling show, and it's our top 10 Starrcade matches. Now, Starrcade I'm talking about ran from 1983 to 2000, not that abortion the WWE Network ran, for 2 years, and the house show they ran the first year they brought it back, which they ran.
Could have been a pay-per-view.
Non-televised in Greensboro at the Coliseum with the Flair in the main event. Yeah. So, there you go. But we're here to cover the good stuff. And, honestly, Starrcade, there was some bad. I'm not going to lie, last 2 years. But, it was still...
As with any pay-per-view.
Right, of course.
There's the highlights, and there's the filler.
Exactly.
And surprisingly, Starrcade, for being essentially at the time the WrestleMania before there was WrestleMania, the Super Bowl of professional wrestling.
Yes, definitely.
Quite a few high spots. We're going to get into those.
It did. And, as we do on the wrestling shows, I am going to defer to my left and let the Renegade himself give off his top 10 and honorable mentions along the way if he so chooses, or I'll do my honorable mentions first, however it works, and then we'll come back to me. So, Mr. Williams, take it away, sir.
Well, you know me. I usually like to hold off on the honorable mentions until you've given your list. That way I can cross off any that you may have touched on. My number 10 is really a 10A and a 10B of sorts.
Oh, here we go. The 10 and 10B stuff again.
When I say it, you'll understand why.
Okay.
From 1998. Kidman versus Juventud versus Rey Mysterio for the Cruiserweight title. And Kidman versus Eddie for the Cruiserweight title.
Okay. There you
go. Kidman and Rey always had great matches. Throw Hoovy into the mix, pre-juice, and this was just a stellar cruiserweight encounter.
Yes.
The LWO represented, one willingly by Hoovy, one unwillingly by Mysterio.
Yep.
both trying to get the strap from Kidman. Neither one can do it. Eddie comes out post-match, just rips Hoovy and Ray apart.
Right.
Calling them morons, calling Kidman a cream puff. To the point where Kidman's like, put up or shut up, bro.
Right.
I'll throw my title down on the line again right now if you're willing to wrestle.
Exactly.
And Eddie trying to be the smarmy heel, he's like, well, let me go in the back. Let me change into my ring gear. I'm not even mentally prepared for a match. It's like, nah, bro. Put up or shut up.
Yep.
Eddie ends up challenging for the match. You know, a good 10, 12-minute encounter with Eddie in his street clothes. Still a 5-star classic.
Yes.
A lot of people sleep on Kidman because of his WWE run. Man, go back and watch some of these old WCW matches and wake the fuck up when it comes to Billy Kidman.
Yeah, for real.
Number 9, going to take it back to 1992.
Ooh.
Shane Douglas and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat versus Barry Windham and Brian Pillman for the Unified Tag Team Championship.
Goodness gracious me. I'm so proud of you for knowing that one.
You know what, dude? Like I said, I may not be the West Coast professor.
Well,
I may not have even been watching back then.
Right.
But when it comes to these shows, I do my due diligence and I do my homework.
Which I appreciate greatly.
And Shane Douglas and Steamboat. Steamboat, again, I can't think of a bad Steamboat match.
I know.
Shane Douglas pre-franchise.
Yes.
Wyndham is Wyndham. He's always going to give a stellar performance.
More often than not, absolutely. Yep.
And Brian Pillman, you know, pre-Hollywood Blondes, pre-Loose Cannon, Flying Brian, if you will.
If you will.
Just a fantastic tag team encounter.
Absolutely.
Number 8 is one that really surprised me. From 1989, the Steiner Brothers versus Doom.
Oh, yes.
With Woman and Michael Myers. For those of you that don't get the joke, Nitron is Tyler Mane, who played Michael Myers in the Rob Zombie reboots.
I understood the reference.
We've got a horror movie wrestling connection there. Gotta love it.
During Christmas time.
Yeah. But, you know, Doom, okay. Clearly I know Ron Simmons.
Right.
Farouk.
We've met Ron Simmons, for crying out loud. Yes. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Never seen a whole lot of Butch Reed. Never seen a whole lot of Doom. And this was back where they were still wearing their freaking masks.
Right.
Which just...
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
If you thought Farouk with the whole, like, Spartan gear...
Blue, mind you. Blue Spartan gear.
Was bad.
Yeah.
Look at him in the bondage masks.
Yeah.
But be that as it may, you got that. And then the Steiners, okay. I have never been a big Papa Pump fan. But when you get into Scotty Steiner
and
the early shit that he did with Ricky,
yep,
you can't deny the man had talent. It's just a damn shame that he let the roids take over his body.
Yeah. It was argued earlier this year, or I think it was last month on the network, maybe in October. I can't remember how far back it went, but I think it may have been Greg. I don't remember, but somebody argued that WWF era, like 93 era Scott Steiner, should have had the rocket strap to his ass then. And it's hard to argue because Scotty, but before Scotty lost his damn mind, he was one of the best wrestlers on the planet. And he had he's big, you know. I was talking about when we watched Adam Pearce versus who is now Corey Graves a couple weeks back on Wrestling Rewind. The fact is, Adam's always been this big, solid dude. You don't see it. even when when he was NWA champion, he doesn't come off as a big dude because you figure if he was Colt Cabana is this big, But Scotty, even as a big, hulking guy, he could still wrestle anybody, wrestle his way out of a paper bag, easily. Yeah. And people tend to shit on him now because of his reputation. But Scotty Steiner, like you said, pre-Papa Pump, even when he first turned and was still wearing the dark hair, even before that, Scott Steiner, he could have easily been a great babyface champion. And you see how good he is in this match because there's no doubting Simmons' ability at all as a wrestler, or Butch Reed for that matter. And Rick was who he was, but he still had the amateur credentials too. Just a great pairing of two great tag team wrestlers, rather. Yeah, I can't even talk. Anyway.
I can't remember if it was 96 or 97 when I was watching, and you could kind of see what was about to transition to Papa Pump. Mm-hmm. He had the short black hair. He had the goatee.
97.
He started to have more of the hulking physique.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, bro, what did you do to yourself?
Yeah, I honestly, if you go back and watch the Steiners in the WWF in 93 when they were there and early 94, and then they disappear from mainstream America for a couple years.
Yeah.
They come back in the Nitro era. Scotty is huge. Just overly so.
And it's bad.
It's very bad. Anyway.
This was a damn good match.
Oh, yeah.
Number 7 from 1986. A steel cage match for the NWA Tag Team Championship.
Ah, yes.
The Rock and Roll Express versus the Minnesota Wrecking Crew.
On my own mentions, by the way.
What can you say about Arn and Ole that hasn't already been said?
Good and bad.
Yeah.
With Ole anyway.
Is what Ole is. But when you got him into that squared circle.
Oh, yeah.
That was a man I wouldn't want to meet in a dark alley.
Yes, just keep away from the pencils, all I ask. Goodness.
And the Rock and Roll Express, just legendary,
Still are.
Yeah. Seriously.
They're
and then you put him in a cage.
Yeah.
It's just element upon element upon element of awesomeness.
Yes.
Speaking of awesomeness, no, we're not talking about The Miz. He wasn't on Starrcade. At least not in the era that we're talking about. My number 6 match. I'm going to say a naughty word.
Uh-oh.
Okay. From 1996.
Here we go.
Or excuse me, number 6 from 1995.
Oh.
Chris Benoit versus Jushin Thunder Liger with Sonny Ono.
Yes.
Again, Benoit's situation is what it is.
Right.
We unfortunately cannot erase what happened. We've pretty much erased him from history as a result of what happened, but we can't erase what happened.
Nope.
But go back, put your feelings about the man to the side, and watch this classic. The only thing that I feel that takes away from this match is Sonny Ono, because I never got into the dude.
Yeah.
He just irked me all kinds of ways.
He's a nice guy. I love Sonny, but yeah, no. It just didn't work.
If we ever do our top 10 managers, I feel like he's going to be the Rob Zombie Halloween 2 when it comes to that list, and just, no.
Rob Zombie 2,
I would rather have Sid Vicious stab me backstage than have Sonny Ono as my manager. I'm just throwing that out there.
Now, are you having Sid stab you with a pair of scissors or with his broken leg bone?
Either or.
Okay, just throwing it out there. Okay. And we're back.
Had to get it in there.
It's been a while.
Halfway point for my list. Okay. And we're going to go back to another classic. I think this is the first. Man. I think this is the first list where the classics have been a lot more spread out as opposed to the top half of the list, or the bottom technically.
Mm.
Number 5. I mentioned this man's name earlier, from 1984, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat versus Tully Blanchard for the NWA Television Championship. Man, I can't get enough of Tully.
Right.
Like, going back and watching these old NWA, WCW things, the best thing about it is getting to see fucking the Horsemen work in the mid-'80s, dude, when they were at their stride. Getting to see Arn and Ole, getting to see Tully, getting to see Arn and Tully, getting to see Barry, getting to see Flair. Just, that's honestly the highlight for me.
Yes.
Some of these Starrcades were a chore to get through.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when you got from like 88 to 92 and it was like more tournament shit.
Yeah.
That was kind of boring to me. But
Well,
there were some highlights. Like I said, the Steiners and Doom, you know.
Yeah, I mean, 91, 92 were very much a disaster. I'm not even going to front.
You know. Actually, my number 4 comes from 91. I'll get there in a second, though.
Okay.
But, you know, for people that became fans during the Monday Night War, some of these early 80s pay-per-views are just hard to get through.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I can appreciate the matches because of my years going to Gorilla and just sitting there watching the match unfold. No commentators telling the story until you bought the DVD like 5 months later and watched it. You're just sitting there and taking it all in front of you. So I can appreciate that, but some of the wrestlers that were pushed back then, some of the angles, just yawn. Next.
Yeah, pretty much. Yep.
Watch it on double speed. Move it on. I didn't, but you know, it's kind of how it felt. Number 4, you talked about how 91, 92 were kind of shit shows.
Right.
My number 4 from 1991, Stunning Steve Austin and Ravishing Rick Rude versus Van Hammer and Big Josh, a.k.a. Matt Bourne, a.k.a. Doink the Clown, in the Lethal Lottery.
So, for those of you keeping track, there is a match on one of our lists that features Van Hammer and the original Doink the Clown. That's how good these two guys were and or could have been. There you go.
Yeah. And it doesn't help, or it doesn't hurt, that they were across the ring from Rick Rude and Steve Austin.
Stunning Steve, yeah, exactly. Stunning Steve. Long blonde hair, Stunning Steve, man. Oh, yeah.
Who, this was a Lethal Lottery match, but both men were representing the Dangerous Alliance. They definitely had the advantage going in, because even though they weren't a tag team within the Alliance, they were within the same faction and knew how to work together.
Yep.
But yeah, dude, I was impressed as shit as Van Hammer. You know, I've seen some of Matt Bourne's stuff outside of the Doink the Clown gimmick.
Right.
You know, when he went to ECW and did that whole thing.
Which cannot be understated how awesome that Born Again thing was. I'm just now starting to get to see that. I was like, nice.
But Van Hammer impressed the shit out of me.
Yep.
And again, I know a lot of it is due to Rude and Austin being able to pull the good stuff out of him.
Right.
But that just goes to show the level that those two men are. You know, Rick doesn't get near the amount of praise from me that he deserves, because I just never was a Rude guy. And Austin is more known these days as the brawling Texas redneck that just gives the middle finger of defiance to authority. Go back and watch some of his old WCW stuff and watch how good of a wrestler he actually was. And then when you go back and you watch those brawling matches from 98 on, after the broken neck, basically, it just is a sad statement of what his career deteriorated into, because he basically stopped doing all that wrestling stuff for fear of injuring his neck further.
Yep.
Shame. Number 3 from 1996. Dean Malenko versus the Ultimo Dragon with Sonny Ono. J Crown Cruiserweight title unification match.
First one we share.
Malenko, for fuck's sake, dude. First of all, okay, Ultimo Dragon walking into this match with like 8 title belts.
Yeah.
Just goes to show how great he was. Yes, okay. Wrestling is scripted. I'm not going to say the F word.
Right.
Because that's the ultimate bad word on this show.
Hell yeah, it is.
Wrestling is scripted.
Yep.
Yes. But to be able to have the confidence of that many promoters to put all those straps onto one man shows how good Ultimo is.
It shows how big the J Crown was, that those promoters could come together and have those belts be in that tournament.
Yeah. And then Dean Malenko. Another man who I swear to God does not get the praise he deserves as a worker.
No, sir.
For fuck's sake, people, he trained Molly Holly. Among others, but probably one of his most notables.
And really, honestly, was the feud that brought Chris Jericho out of his shell. Lest we forget that little nugget of information.
If all you know of Dean Malenko is the road agent, the James Bond goof that WWF made him, please go rewatch this match.
Pretty please.
As well as, and I'll go ahead and throw this honorable mention out there right now, since we're on the subject of Malenko, the 1997 match between him and Eddie Guerrero for the Cruiserweight title.
Good Lord, greatness.
And while you're watching
my list.
Eddie, put on Cheating, Death, Stealing, Life and watch the 2 out of 3 falls match between the two of them from ECW on their final night.
Mm-hmm.
Just watch those 3 matches and then come back and tell me how awesome Dean Malenko was. And
when you do, put on the commentary with him and Eddie actually doing the commentary with, I know it's Todd Grisham. Bear with me.
Can't be perfection.
No.
It's got to be that one hiccup in there somewhere. At least it's not Josh Matthews. Number 2. A man who I've already mentioned twice before on this list. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Challenging Lord Steven Regal for the WCW Television Championship in 1993.
Yeah, buddy.
I think I have made it clear how much I love Regal throughout the years, going back to the original Renegade Wrestling show, the original incarnation of DADS, the reboot here the past year, if you will.
Yeah.
William Regal, Steven Regal, whatever you want to call him, is, in my opinion, one of the top 5 wrestlers, not entertainers, of all time. And this match just goes to show why he deserves to be held in that high of esteem. For Christ's sake, people, the match went to a time limit draw. There was no decisive winner. And people were not disappointed. These days, if a match went to a time limit draw, there'd be riots.
Well, I mean, maybe, but I tend to believe if the crowd got a match like this, they wouldn't quite shit all over it.
I still feel they'd be disappointed that there was no decisive winner in this day and age. They'd be calling for 5 more minutes.
Well that I can grant you.
For a decision.
Maybe.
But the fans were not mad.
No.
They loved this match. And so did I. It was just an amazing contest between the two men.
Yes, sir.
And Ricky Steamboat was basically in the twilight of his career at this point.
Right.
And he still put on a 5-star classic with the up-and-comer.
Yes. And it's funny, Regal wasn't in up-and-comer. He did in wrestling for many, many years by then, so.
But not mainstream in the States.
No.
So mainland-wise,
There
he
you go.
was the up-and-comer.
That's right.
Number 1.
Yes, sir.
My top 10 Starrcade matches of all time. Going all the way back to the original. And a match that I believe you're going to be doing on Wrestle Rewind, if you have not done it yet.
We haven't done it yet. I know what you're talking about.
Rowdy Roddy Piper versus Greg Valentine, dog collar match.
Man.
The brutality of that match is just insane.
Very, yes.
Pre-hardcore. Pre-extreme.
Right.
Piper, pre-WWF, pre-the ultimate foil for Hulkamania.
Mm-hmm.
Valentine, just another underrated worker from those early to mid 80s.
Yes,
Not
sir.
so much when he got to rhythm and blues, but basically everything from this point up until that. I would say Valentine is very underrated when it comes to those years.
I agree with that.
That is my top 10, good sir. And now to take it back over, we're going to swing things back over to the West Coast professor, Jeff motherfucking Mitchell.
And there it is. Very good. Okay.
I know you were waiting for it.
I was waiting for it.
You don't get them in on the shows where you intro.
No. So.
Because you're introing yourself.
Right.
So I gotta figure out how I'm gonna work it in there on the shows where you intro. There we go.
That's it. Well, before I get underway here with the official list, I do want to go ahead and do my honorable mentions. That way you can do yours after me and we can all be all synchronized and all that happy nonsense. I've got a few honorable mentions because I happen to love Starrcade, and I'm a big WCW guy, as the contestants on Trivia Challenge will tell you. So, Flair and Dusty from 84 and 85 both great in their own way. I think the match of the Gathering in 85 was a little bit better. The finish was better, we thought, until the next night at TV when Flair got the belt back because of the Dusty finish. But great matches, both of them. You had Smokin' Joe Frazier in 84 be the special referee in a time before he was Mr. T's corner man at WrestleMania. So it kind of shows how much they cross-pollinated back then. You figure Ricky Steamboat's on how many matches in your list, and he was at the first WrestleMania and the first Starrcade. So there you go. Crazy. The Rock. I mentioned the Rock and Roll Express, the Andersons from '86. Just, jeez, these four guys. Again, I shouldn't only myself. I did earlier. Probably shouldn't, but at their core, they were awesome. The two of them. They were just Arnold. They were a great team, and Arn had to fill some pretty hefty shoes filling in for Gene, and he did great. And Ole was still great then. Surprisingly enough, Lex Luger's on my list from '88 against Ric Flair. The match they had at the end of they went all over the territory in '88, man. Flair, once Luger turned babyface at the start of '88 or late '87, he was the guy, and he was gonna be the guy, or so the office wanted. And Flair's like, no, I promise it to this guy, Sting. So but Luger got shot after shot. This match at Starrcade was very well done by both men. I think Lex probably looked the best he's ever looked as the challenger in this match. And for Luger Flair matches, that's saying something because they actually had pretty decent stuff, the two of them together.
Yeah.
All right.
As did Luger and Sting.
Very much so. Luger and Sting at Super Brawl, granted, Lex on his way out, so it wasn't the prettiest of finishes or the prettiest of matches, but it told a great story. And the build up to it was the key to that encounter at Super Brawl 2. You mentioned Kidman, Hoovy, and Ray at Starrcade 98. That's all my honorable mentions. Again, 3 of the best cruiserweights at the time. Dare say the 3 best, maybe. And also guys that were in their prime. And, you mentioned Hoovy wasn't quite the juice yet. Hoovy hadn't lost his damn mind yet. So that's always a good thing. Okay, please don't hate me, y'all. Please don't be surprised, y'all. Goldberg versus Kevin Nash is on my honorable mentions.
It definitely deserves to be mentioned.
Yeah, not for the match quality, but it was a monumental moment in the history of the business. If you really, without this match, does the streak end? Does the entire company fall apart? Don't know. But in the moment, these 2 guys were. I'm not going to compare Hogan and Andre because that's just insulting as hell. But it was a clash of the Titans. It was the top guy still active in the NWO against WCW's Juggernaut. You can't ask for a bigger finish at Starrcade than the top guy in the NWO versus the top guy in WCW. And it was a pivotal moment in the history of WCW. So, in and of itself, that's why it's
we talked a little bit off camera. We'll go ahead and talk a little bit on camera about this. But in my personal opinion, this match is what was the nail in the coffin of WCW.
Yes.
Because Kevin Nash beating the streak, and then the following night on Nitro was the finger poke of doom,
right?
Which basically made Goldberg's entire title run meaningless.
Yeah.
So not only have you ended the streak, but now the belt is on the same guy that Goldberg defeated, and his entire run has been for nothing.
Yeah, I have maintained for 20 years that if they'd done this still, and if they'd still done it exactly the way they did it before, but they took out the dead weight of the NWO black and white, and if Scott Steiner, Scott Hall, and Lex Luger stay healthy, and Hogan, totally different picture. Because according to Kevin Nash on the Legends of Wrestling documentary, which is a complete crock of shit, and I'll tell you why in a minute, Goldberg did it to himself by getting injured and not being able to have the machine fed. Okay, first of all, Kevin, reality check, brother. Goldberg, you beat Goldberg in Starrcade 98. He didn't take himself out of action until after Starrcade 99. So it wasn't Bill that derailed the NWO's reunion and into the Elite. It was your boy, Scott Hall, and Scott Steiner, and Hulk, and Lex all getting hurt within a few weeks of each other. If you don't have 4 of the top guys in the so-called Elite, you're kind of screwed. It's just the way it is. And without those 4 guys, you don't have those 4, Kevin and Bagwell, to feed the babyface machine for 6 months. And get the belt back on Goldberg, I don't know, at a pay-per-view, I don't know, in July maybe, I don't know, Bash at the Beach. As opposed to you losing the world title in a tag match to Savage with Sid as his partner and Sting as yours. Yeah. That happened. And then who won the belt the next night? Hogan. You can't write this shit. They wrote it for us. Anyway,
and this is coming from a diehard Hogan mark.
Devout Hulkamaniac and NWO for life. Okay.
So much so that our logos are in the vein of it.
But at the end of the day, it was not. I'm going to give him credit. God help me. It was not Bill Goldberg that derailed WCW in the first half of '99. It was you with the pencil in your hand. And Bischoff letting it happen. I love you both very much. I love Eric Bischoff, love the podcast, and I am one of the few that will, defend Kevin Nash more often than not. But this match is only important in all my honorable mentions because of the monumental happening of it. Right? All right. Numero 10. Eddie versus Dean. You mentioned it earlier. Again, talk about cruiserweights in their prime with seemingly nothing in their way to stop them but their own damn selves. These guys put on a clinic. I think it was the opening match of Starrcade 97, if I'm not mistaken. So
It was
typical Bischoff booking, start the night off with, cooking with gas. You got the two top cruiserweights in the company at the time battling over the championship that Bischoff established for this very reason, for the car crash at the beginning of the show. So there you go. Just great stuff here by both guys. Another one that you mentioned earlier, number 9, Ultimo Dragon Dean Malenko for the 25 championships that they had together. It's funny. When we were doing the trivia thing with Greg this whole time, he kept collecting titles. He was going to call himself Ultimo Dragon if he ended up getting 1 or 2 more titles, just because he was starting to collect the hardware, right? But yeah, the Ultimo Dragon gets looked over because of the whole botch of WrestleMania 20, because of the spaz he did on the way down the ramp, and I get that ridicule. I understand it, but if you only know the Ultimo Dragon for that, you're not using your network subscription properly, ladies and gentlemen. You're just not.
Seriously.
You're just not, man. Seriously, go back and watch Nitros and pay-per-views. Not Thunders, though. Nitros and pay-per-views from 96 and 97. And you tell me he's not one of the best wrestlers of that time period. I double dog friggin' dare you.
The only Thunder I recommend watching is one from October of 2000 from the Long Beach Arena. Otherwise, you can skip Thunders.
I remember my network got to keep talking about people being in crowds on my shows. What the fuck? Anyway, says the guy who was ringside at SmackDown in August of 2011. You can actually see me on the ramp if you look real hard. Anyway,
I was third row for that Thunder.
Nice. Yeah, I think I went to more shows in 2001 than I've been in my entire rest of my life combined. Not counting Gorilla, of course, because Gorilla, we were there every month for about 40 years, I felt like. Anyway. Never mind, I'll stay out there. Okay, so number 8 is one that I feel gets looked over because there wasn't a finish. It was a non-finish, but it was a hell of a bout. It was a hell of a fight. Doom versus the Horsemen from 1990. The street fight for the NWA Tag Team Championship. So the Horsemen are Arn and Barry. Just, you wouldn't think on paper that 4 technically sound wrestlers going into a street fight would be anything worth a damn. And it's probably the best match of this night. I mean, really, it's 90 was what it was with the whole fiasco with the Black Scorpion, and it kind of was a mess. But this match made you almost forget it was going to happen because it was such a good tag team title match. It was great. These 4 guys beat the shit out of each other and just made for what could have been something great, because toward the end after that pay-per-view and going into 91, they had that infamous Junkyard promo with Arn and Barry where they were going to get back to basics, get back to business. And had the Horsemen not fallen apart and Flair and Sid not left the company, who knows what could have happened with the Horsemen and, with how they would have evolved.
Yeah.
But again, now I will say this. Excuse me. I did get to see the Conrad podcast with Jim Herd and talking to the interview they did with him. And yes, there was a lot of bad mistakes made under Herd's watch, but a lot of that shit gets lumped on him that shouldn't. And a good part of it is the Flair departure. And I recommend everybody go subscribe to ad-free shows, subscribe to Conrad's channel, and listen to the interview with Jim Herd. But I feel that they could have done a lot more with what they had than they did, yes. But there was also a lot of want to leave and it's like, I'm done with this crap. They don't want to deal with it anymore. And lack of caring on a lot of talent's part that led to the demise of the Horsemen in that particular time period and led to a lot of things that went south very quickly for WCW. This match here shows me that they had the talent to move on with or without Nate. So there you go. Number 7 is a match I'm surprised didn't get mentioned by you because of our mutual affinity for this man, but Shinjiro Atani versus Eddie Guerrero from 1995 during the WCW Cup or whatever the hell it was called.
It was an honorable mention.
I figured it would be. Again, Eddie when Eddie was Eddie, right? I mean, just fresh off the ECW, fresh out of Mexico and Japan and everything, just Eddie Guerrero being Eddie Guerrero, not Latino heat, not, lie, cheat, and steal, just a great freaking wrestler. Now, people are going to say, oh, well, he was too vanilla back then. Yeah, you know what? You're right. Character-wise, I'll agree with that. But he didn't need it.
His promo was god-awful.
It really was. Yeah, it's
god-awful. Like,
yeah.
Do me a favor and just watch the match. Skip the promo.
Yeah. Promo bad. Yeah, it was very reminiscent of Jericho's early WCW promos where he's just the plucky babyface. It's like, no, stop. I'm begging you. You guys are killing me, Smalls. So yeah,
I'd rather listen to an hour-long Ultimate Warrior montage of promos than that 2-minute Eddie Guerrero promo.
It's so bad it made JJ say Wario instead of Warrior. That's how bad this promo was. He called him the Ultimate Wario because he's so distracted by the fact of how bad this Eddie Guerrero promo was. Okay? That's how. So skip it.
Yeah.
I love you for that blooper. Thank you so much for letting me have that one. I appreciate that very much. Okay. Now I'm being a dick. Number
No, you're not.
No, I'm not. No, that's a lie. That's a complete lie. We'll see. Number 6. There we go. 1989, the Iron Man final. Sting versus Ric Flair. Can you go wrong with Sting versus Flair in WCW? More than likely not. What
the final
very, that honestly, I wasn't looking for
it the emotional standpoint,
right?
But the match was garbage.
It was, and you remember, Flair wasn't ready to wrestle, and Sting was still hurt. So it's kind of one of those things where the boss says to do, the boss tells you to do something, you suck it up. But yeah, it was a shit match, no question about it. But the emotion was what it was.
Yeah.
But this one was huge. It was a great little 15-minute match, and Sting and Flair doing Sting and Flair things. But the moments at the end when Arn walks out and he grabs Sting by the wrist. And you're like, oh, they're going to drop Sting on his ass. Here we go. And then Arn goes like this. And the crowd's like, what? Sting's a horseman? Like, you would never expect that. All the shit the Horseman put Sting through, all the nonsense they had gone through the previous year and a half, and now he's one of them. And then we find out, oh, well, Sting has a title shot from this Iron Man tournament. That's what the Horsemen are doing. So there you go. And when Sting refused to drop the title shot, they guzzled him, just completely took him out. And it would have been the title match at Wrestle War had Sting not blown his knee out in February. So great storytelling, great match. Again, I mentioned Tim Hurd being shit on too much earlier. This right here shows exactly what the company with Hurd at the helm could do. You would never expect Sting to be a horseman. Ever. It was a Russo swerve before Russo was even a thing, like for real. But it worked. It worked so well because the fans were just completely incredulous. Like, what the just happened here? Good stuff. Good shit, pal. Speaking of Sting, 1992 versus Big Van Vader, the King of Cable final. What's the King of Cable, Jeff? It sounds as lame as it is. It's lame as it sounds. Basically, it was a tournament to celebrate the 20th anniversary of WCW, NWA, Jim Crockett, whatever, being on TBS. And the winner of this was the King of Cable, he was the king of TBS wrestling. Like, sure. Keep in mind, Vader's not the world champion here. Vader had lost the title to Simmons in August. And wouldn't regain it until the end of the year, but I think 30th, if I remember right, of December. Excuse me. So this was just a match of pride, a tournament-winning match, and Sting just showed why Sting was Sting in 1992. I really didn't pick up much on WCW full on until Hogan made the jump, but in these early 90s situations, Flair, Of course, when he jumped, it was different. But Sting was the guy that literally strapped that big, ugly WCW block letter logo to his back and ran down the damn field with it. He was the franchise. The whole thing in '97 was not just a storyline. Sting was the damn franchise of the company, and he shows it here.
Sting was for WCW what Cena was for WWE.
Right. And before Cena, of course, Austin and Hogan, but yeah, he was the franchise player. Very much so.
But even Austin wasn't the franchise for as long as Cena.
Oh, no. You and I
I'm comparing longevity. Yes, obviously you have Hogan.
Right.
But then Hogan went to WCW.
Right. Sting never wavered.
No.
Once he was under contract to Crockett and Turner, he didn't leave.
Just like Cena.
As far as I know, he was the only guy that didn't make a jump one way or the other. Even The Undertaker did, folks.
Just like Cena.
Yeah, Cena.
Austin came from WCW to ECW to WWF.
Right.
Hogan left WWF for WCW.
Right. The only guy I can
compare till now.
Yep.
Cena's been there.
Yeah, the only guy I could compare it to, and he also took a long hiatus, was Rock. Because Rock's a homegrown talent, very much so. But again, I don't know if we talked about this, you and I, on the air or whatever it was, but we're going off in the weeds here, but
as we do.
John Cena was compared, was mentioned by Paul Heyman on the ECW special they did a few years back when they added stuff to the network. And Paul talked about, I would rather have John Cena as my guy in the new ECW. And Joey Styles gave him a look like, the hell you said? Think about it, Joey. John Cena was champion, was the guy for 10 years. He was the guy on top for a solid decade. Hogan can't say that. Rocky can't say that. Austin can't say that. Hunter can't even say that. The closest thing that you have, like you just said, Jay, to a franchise player like John Cena was Sting. Because Sting was the babyface, for the most part, from 1988 until 2001. And when he turned heel on that, people went, get out of here, you're crazy. So, Number 4, another Flair mentioned on my list. What a big surprise. Versus Harley, 1983, the original Starrcade main event.
Yep. Flair for the gold.
In a show where, other than the match you mentioned from this show, which it's coming, and the match I'm mentioning right now, I'm trying to take a leave the whole rest of the show. I mean, really, it's very boring. It's very bland. Even the Briscoes against Steamboat and Youngblood is kind of just there. But these two matches,
I really wanted to get into that match because I had never really seen Jerry Briscoe get down.
Right.
I love me some Steamboat.
Right.
And I'm like, I'd rather watch Briscoe versus Patterson.
Yeah.
At least that was entertaining. It was god awful, but at least it was entertaining.
Yeah. I don't remember if Jay Youngblood was already sick by then or what. I don't remember the whole situation, but I do know that I was left kind of like with that match after doing the debut and watching Mid-Atlantic leading up to it to get the full feel of the build. It didn't deliver. This match, and I'll say it right now, number 3, Roddy versus Greg, both those matches delivered.
Big time.
Flair for the gold with Harley, with Kiniski as referee, with all the emotion afterwards, with all the back and forth and the build. Good grief, the build of this match is just, here we go. I'm on Air Channel. It was fucking legendary. It really was. I mean, you had, Flair, win the title in 81, dominate for 82, get kind of the shit job at the end of toward the middle of 83 with losing the title on that double pin thing. You had Slater and Orton just take Flair out. You had Flair come back with the ball back. Just a whole sequence of things that just led up to this. And the payoff was worth it. These two guys stepped into that cage, that horrible freaking beat down old Crockett cage, and just went to school with each other, man. And it's I can't I can't overstated enough how good Harley Race was and how great. We all know how great Rick was. We've all heard it from everybody. Harley does not get a lot of credit except from Flair, Hunter, those guys. I'm going to sit here right now. I was freaking not even I know I'm younger than you. Shut up. I was not even a year old when Starrcade premiered, right? But I can go back and watch that now and go, God damn it, he was great. My goodness. Harley was, in my personal opinion, other than Rick, the original guy to make the 10 pounds of gold the standard bearer.
Agreed.
And I'm pretty sure Adam Pearce will agree with me on that too, because it's Flair and Harley and Dusty. Yeah, those three guys, and Jack Briscoe. Let me not undersell Jack Briscoe whatsoever. Those four guys made that 10 pounds of gold, leather and gold, what it was. And there's a reason Hunter wanted that hanging outside his office in Connecticut because of those guys, honestly. But this match was just so awesome, as was the dog collar match. You mentioned earlier, I mean, just Roddy. I mean, dude, Roddy lost part of his hearing because of this match. Like, you don't hear that now. Like, it's just like it's so brutal. But it's like he said, it's like Flair talked about Roddy's speech. I gotta draw money, bring him back next week. It's like, dude, Roddy, you didn't need to have your ear done. Dude, we want you to be able to hear out of both sides. They'll come back with you having your hearing intact. It's okay, Rod. Fucking bananas. He was crazy, and you and I both know he's crazy. We met him in person. He's freaking insane. So,
but he knew how to make money.
Oh, dude, yeah.
He understood the business like no other.
Yeah, I still sit here and go, you know, people for years, and I'm guilty of it. Oh, Rick Rude was the greatest guy to ever be world champion. Even though he was, if you look at every book, he was. Oh, yeah, Rob Van Dam was until he, dude, Roddy Piper is the greatest heel to never be world champion. I said what I said.
And he was just as great as a face as he was as a heel.
Yep. Yeah. If Vince had, see, like I still believe, even it only would have been a month and a half. If Roddy beats Hogan at the World Title of the Score, and the main event of WrestleMania is a rematch for the world title, you maybe have even more than you have with T and Orndorff in there. I'm not underselling Paul or T at all, but a world title grudge match in the main event of your very first big deal. I'm kind of looking back going, yeah, I would have done that if I was Vince. Because can you imagine the riot in the garden when Roddy beats Hulk on MTV in front of the world? Holy shit. Number 2 is going to surprise people. It's so high up on the list, but bear with me here. Flair versus Vader from 93. Now, by all accounts and recollections from everybody, this match wasn't even supposed to be a thing. And if Sid had gotten Sid were happy, it wouldn't have been a thing. Because it would have been Sid winning the world title here instead of Ric Flair. But once the situation dictated what it was, they put Flair in there. And it becomes the craziest thing ever because Flair is the babyface, the hometown hero, coming back for one more run. The family's involved. They have a highlight video of him coming from the house, folks. Mean Gene gets in the limo at the Flair mansion with Beth, with David, with Reed, with a very young Ashley, Charlotte Flair. They're all there. And they do the long ride in the limo. And meanwhile, Vader's in the arena just beating shit up, just warming up, ready to kill. And Flair wins the title with the worst roll up this side of Austin versus Hart ever. Let's be honest. And neither one of them was crippled like Steve was. So let's just give a little bit, let's see a little bit of credit there. But just it was a great story. And Sting coming to the back and shaking Rick's hand, and Dusty coming back, and Steamboat, all these baby faces that had been just terrorized by Flair. You're sitting here going, okay, what's the gag? Come on, put the foot, come on. because you're expecting Flair to do something Flairish, you know.
Respect is
exactly, and that's the thing.
A lost art.
Yeah,
respect.
There's all about respect, and to Flair's credit, he only really turned to the dark side again because Hogan came in. So let's not look over that so much. Flair was a decent babyface champion.
Yeah.
For the first half of '94, he had that great match with Steamboat at Spring Stampede. Yes, the title was held up. Yes, he did regain on Saturday night. I have video. Don't mess with me. The match with Barry at Slamboree. The unification match with Sting, where he had already turned heel, but still, just a great run. And it started here at Starrcade. Number 1, 1985. I Quit Steel Cage. Before Roman Reigns, Jey Uso made it cool, you had Magnum TA and Tully fucking Blanchard.
That was on my honorable mentions. It was that close.
Man, I totally understand Shawn Michaels saying that Tully was the first cool bad guy he ever liked, because damn it, man, Tully was cool, and Tully just wanted Tully to get in that cage and just be torn limb from freaking limb because of what he'd done to everybody involved with Magnum and Dusty, and just it's just so much emotion, just so crazy. And these two, you talk about a match that set a standard for brutality. My goodness gracious me! And what's scary is it wasn't even the main event of the Greensboro portion of Starrcade. The main event was the Rock and Rolls and the Russians. And the babyface still won this match. Magnum still won. Like it was.
Fully told the Russians, "Hold my beer."
Yeah, right. No,
I'm gonna show you why I deserve to be the main event.
Tully was Shawn Michaels walking back going, "Follow that."
Pretty much.
And to the Rock and Rolls and the Russians' credit, they certainly did a good job. I'm not gonna shit on them or anything, but
But they didn't make either of our lists.
No, they didn't.
So
yeah, exactly. Now,
how good a job did they really do?
Yeah, it goes to show that both main events.
Not to take anything away from them.
No,
but they didn't make either of our lists.
No, and the fact that this made my number 1 and Flair and Dusty made my honorable mention from the same Starrcade, it's hard to argue that Starrcade '85 was not the best one they ever did. So I mean, yeah, it was 2 arenas before Vince made it cool to do. Oh, I'll do 3. Oh, okay, Vince. But yeah, Magnum's another one of those guys where it's so sad and tragic that he got hurt, because him beating Nate for the world title and going on a run would have been just the thing, the thing of stories, the shit you can tell your grandkids about when they get old enough to watch wrestling. Just amazing. And Magnum got cut short. It was so screwed up what happened to him. But this match, I think, was his defining moment, and he and Tully just raw emotion, man. Oh, anyway.
Honorable mentions. You just touched on Tully and Magnum. That was definitely on there.
Right.
From '87, Arn and Tully versus the Road Warriors.
Oh yeah. Oh man.
For the NWA tag straps.
Yes.
From '88, Wyndham versus Bigelow for the U.S. title.
Yes.
Sometimes I forget how good Bigelow really was as a big man.
Oh yeah.
I see a match like this, and I'm reminded.
Yeah,
why was he not WWF or WCW World Champion?
Yeah, Bammer could go, man.
You touched on Eddie versus Shinjiro Otani, so I'll bypass that. '96, Benoit versus Jarrett.
Yeah.
Damn good match. And then Arn coming down, and you think Arn is lining with Jarrett, and then he drops him with that DDT.
Dude, he snapped that DDT off.
Beats him to Benoit. But Jarrett just happens to roll in and get the arm over, and Jarrett picks up the victory.
Yeah. Oh,
Great storytelling there.
yes.
Touched on Eddie Malenko earlier. The last one, another Benoit from '97 against Saturn, the Ravens Rules match.
Yes, that was great too. Absolutely.
Just some amazing stuff. And you notice I didn't have any world title matches,
Which does
in
surprise
my
me.
list, because as good as some of them were, don't get me wrong, you touched on the Flair matches and Hogan Steen even. You know, as good as some of those were, I felt like the undercard really stole the show. Especially once we started to get into the Hogan era, when Bischoff was riding the red and yellow nutsack, if you will. And these guys were just like, look, we need to get pushed. Half the time they were the curtain jerking match.
Yeah.
Follow that.
Exactly. I honestly, I will not give a whole lot of praise to Hogan Sting because it was a disaster. It really was. The build I think was the best Starrcade main event build ever. But the match didn't deliver worth a shit. It was a bad match. Like Sting wasn't ready. Sting didn't show up ready to go. I will say that I'm grateful that we don't have to worry about praising Hogan too much main events because there is such a thing as Hogan versus Brutus fucking Barber Beefcake and Hogan versus Piper, which are just both
Butcher. Brother Brutai.
Yeah, it's Brother Brutai. It's like, dude, you can't call him that, Tony. Stop. Or even freaking Bash at the Beach. It's Bruce Barber Beefcake. Like, Gene, you don't own that name. Can't. Oh, Brother Brutai, because that's better. Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. Hogan needs to credit whatever tick in the back of his head. You know, a heel turn might work. Because babyface Hogan in WCW. Yeesh. Not a good look. And you gotta remember, he only made event in 2 Starrcades. 3. And it was Brutus, Piper, and Sting.
And to this day, I think that Piper match should have been for the title.
It
would have been too little too late.
Right.
But at least Piper would have gotten the belt.
Right. And I find it funny.
He could have lost it at Super Brawl.
Right, I agree. And I do agree, I very little with this book more often than not, but I do agree with the Death of WCW book saying, in storyline, we nominate Roddy Piper for Dumbest Babyface of the Year. Because, according to storyline, he wrote that contract. Why wasn't a world title shot, Roddy? You beat him dead to rights. He was done. He was 9 time. And then when you did get a title shot, you got beat because Savage dicked you. And then having the following year, you got beat up really bad. Like Roddy, for all the good he did in WWE as a babyface and a heel, he was a complete fucking idiot in WCW. Like, he was like the dumb babyface of the century, and I hate to shit on Roddy like that. But
yeah, I love Roddy to death.
I do too.
I can blame my ex for my love of Roddy. But Roddy, WCW, should not have been wrestling.
No.
Nope. He was beyond past his prime.
Yes.
The Hogan match was a good one-off.
Right.
But other than that, Piper should have just been an on-camera figure.
Yep. Because he
do some Piper's Pit segments, get the talent over, call it a day.
Yep.
Have him beat Hogan at Starrcade, lose the belt at Super Brawl. He can finally say he's been champion. He could even lose it back to Hogan.
Yeah.
Or lose it to someone else in the NWO. Lose it to Mach.
Or, have him go into Sold Out and be so outnumbered he can't help but lose the title back. Because he's in their territory. again,
we're
we're Monday morning quarterbacking 20, 30 years later, and I get that, but it's matches like these that Roddy had, that Rick had, that these guys had, where you go, why poop on the legacy that you built? People for all, at the end of the day, people will remember always Flair's rivalry with Hulk. Period. But because of the network and because there's old school fans like me who love the old stuff, watch that dog collar match with Valentine and go, man, he was crazy even then. But he was good. He was great. And he could have been more.
Very
had
much.
They pulled it in either company. It just pulled the damn trigger. But that's for another time, another topic, another show. And I feel that we need to continue on in December, as I mentioned at the top of the show. Let's see, it'll be the 18th then. So we'll have our top 10 Christmas movies, which I'm looking forward to you guys seeing because I enjoyed doing that show thoroughly. I enjoyed the hell out of it. And then on Christmas Eve, or maybe the day before, depending on which wild hair I get up my ass to do.
I vote Christmas Eve.
Well, I only say maybe not because our whole point of not doing it Christmas Day was to give people time with their families. Christmas Eve is my time with my whole family because the boys going elsewhere for Christmas Day. So I'm just trying to see where I want to. Because honestly, if I do a show Christmas Eve, I'm gonna have to keep an eye on it because that's just how I am. So I'm trying to decide if I want to actually take the day off and be a good little soldier or not. I don't know yet, but we'll see. Either way, that's coming up at the end of the month. You've got the Christmas movies in 2 weeks and the Christmas songs in 3 weeks, and then we're good because the following Friday after Christmas will be January 1st, and it'll be a multi-show party because
quite the celebration.
Quite the shindig, if you will, because I'm hoping to get everybody together, Greg and you and Mike and everybody, to celebrate the fact that I made it a year because I didn't think that would happen. And I'm almost there now. I'm so happy. But in the meantime, here's a link for you. Here's the picture display for you. You can check out all these varieties of the Dads on Wrestling shirt right here on the Jeff Meacham Network at teespring.com/store/Jeff Meacham Network. No hyphens. Yay me. You can buy the black and white shirt, the classic black and white with a little bit of red there. So it's completely NWO style because it's black, white, and red. So, I'm totally ripping them off at this point.
With Disney script. Because
we just want to make sure that everybody is pissed off by us, the WCW guys and the Disney guys. It's all good. Fuck the corporations. That's what I said. But you get that variety. You got different colors. You can even get the infamous J.J. Williams purple on the DOW shirt if you really want to, like my niece has. So there you go. Good stuff, pal. So check that out. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks right here in the Dads for Christmas because it's Christmas time. And we're very happy that it's Christmas time because that means the year's almost over too. God, this damn year. Thank you guys for watching and listening. If you're on Anchor, we love you even more. Thank you for that. Anchor.fm/Championship Network. We will see you guys next time.